All right, well, thank you very much, Kim, for that introduction. And can I associate myself, Kim, with your acknowledgement of country and of elders, and can I pay my personal respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us here in the auditorium today and online. Can I just say what a great pleasure it is for me to have the opportunity to come along this morning and just say a few words at the start of this very important event in the life of the Australian Antarctic Division within my department. I should say also that Minister Plibersek had intended to come along and address you this morning, but she's not been able to, so she has provided me with her remarks. So at the end of my comments, I will read out to you her remarks, because I think that's a very important reflection. I know she was very, very disappointed to not be able to come and join you this morning. But for me personally, as the Secretary of the newly minted Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water, as I say, this is an important occasion for me and it's an important occasion for the department. I'll say some things about the criticality of this event towards the end of my remarks, but I just wanted to come along today to acknowledge a few things for all of you from the perspective of a secretary of a department who has a primary responsibility for delivering the best possible policy advice to government. And can I start by saying that for me, it is critically important that you hear me say how important I regard the role of science in public policy formation. It is critical. I have a view generally about the role of the public service, all of the vast array of people in the public service, that we have a unique responsibility as the providers of advice to ministers, to cabinets, to governments, advice which is evidence-based, which is professional, which is objective, which is not self-interested. And the advice from the public service is unique in that respect. There are plenty of sources of advice, all well-meaning, but at the end of the day, advice from the public sector carries those unique traits of objectivity, professionalism, and we should be proud of that. When it comes to science, you then add the scientific rigour and discipline and integrity to that advice. And so science in many issues lies at the heart of the public sector's capacity to provide that crucial advice to government. And can I say this, and I say this on every occasion I can, I want your advice and I want our advice to be the most influential advice that governments receive, because it carries those traits of your expertise, your knowledge, your professionalism, your objectivity, your integrity. These are elements that are crucial in government receiving and hearing and understanding the best advice and the most influential advice that it can. And can I just say that I think that is even more important in today's society. You all know as scientists, I know in your various worlds, you will have grind your teeth over the last years where you see to some degree a rise of scepticism about science, a rise of scepticism about objective policy advice. You've all seen it. If you watch the news, you see it. If you hear some versions of public debate, you see it. If you go online to social media, you'll be snowstormed by it. But at the end of the day, it's on us to respond. It's on us to stand up and to be the voice of reason and logic, as science has for 500 years, against scepticism. That's the critical challenge for us. It's the critical challenge for you as scientists, and it's the critical challenge for us as public servants. And can I just say, I have seen this occur magnificently in recent times. Over the 2-3 years of the COVID crisis, it was science that was the consistent voice to government about the best ways to manage the crisis. And can I say to a government that was prepared to listen and understand that advice and the force of that advice, governments here, governments across Australia, allowed themselves to be influenced by the best advice. It happened across the world, and can I be clear and fair, it was a contested debate. But science stood up. You know, I was incredibly proud as the Secretary of the Department of Industry, Science and Energy and Resources through that period in the role that CSIRO played in all of that. I was incredibly proud of the role that the Chief Scientist played in all of that. They were the voices that made sure that the best available science was provided to government so government could make the best decisions in the interests of the Australian people, and they did. And can I just say, for all of you that don't know me, I first became involved in the debates around climate change in 2007. So I have lived the roller coaster of the political, of the policy, of the economic debate about climate change for 15 years. I remember 2007 distinctly. It was the first time that the scientists who had been beating the drum about climate change for some years, it was the period where science first started getting picked up and being prosecuted by prominent people outside of science, the likes of Al Gore and others. And the reality is that momentum that started in 2006, 2007, across the world, which has ebbed and flowed for 15 years now, there's been one constant. And the one constant has been the consistency of advice and advocacy by the scientific community about the harming effects of climate change. And for me, I think that's something that the scientific community, all of you, as scientists and as your profession, should be incredibly proud of. Because science just kept walking forward through the slings and arrows. And whilst the economists' view of it ebbed and flowed, whilst policymakers' views about it ebbed and flowed, scientific views did not ebb and flow. I'm incredibly proud of the previous government for reaching a decision on behalf of Australia to target net zero by 2050. And I'm incredibly proud of the current government for reaching a decision about medium-term targets of 43% by 2030. They are important milestones for the future of this nation. They are important milestones that were built fundamentally on the advocacy, the hard work, the professionalism, the diligence, the integrity, and the sheer guts of scientists in that area. And so it wouldn't surprise you at all to know that I'm incredibly proud that in my new portfolio, that I have a portfolio replete with scientists. And that is a wonderful thing. I look across at my portfolio, I look at my own department, I look at national parks, of course I look at AAD, but I look at Gurumpa, I now look at AIMS, I look at BOM, and I know that in this portfolio, I have some of the best and brightest scientists who are all ready, willing and able to make the contribution to public policy that I've just described. And can I just say, I'm learning and I'm becoming more conscious of the role that Antarctic science can play in those debates. I do appreciate that Antarctic science has a reach in terms of its influence well beyond the Antarctic. So I know the importance that Antarctic science has played, for example, in the development of climate change science. The contribution our science has made to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change over many years has been crucial. the role that Antarctic science has been playing and will continue to play in crucial policy issues that are confronting my department, like fisheries management, like marine conservation, like threatened species, like biodiversity, like environmental stewardship. These are the challenges which the Australian people and the Australian nation require us to solve. I have a responsibility to help government solve those problems. You have a responsibility to provide the science that helps government solve those problems. And it's a wonderful opportunity. I have a view, I'm optimistic. I have a view that the age of science is back. That science has the capacity to go over the top of the sort of scepticism that I've described before. And we need to do it. So can I just say lastly, before I turn to the Minister's remarks, why this event is so important? Because the reality is, for science to be influential, science has to be showcased. Science has to be celebrated. I want to celebrate science. I want to showcase science. I want to market science. I want to talk about science. Because that is the only way science will be influential. That's not always an easy thing for scientists to hear. And I know at times, there will be times where you in your heart of hearts would think to yourself, I just want to do my science. It's perfectly legitimate. At the end of the day, the institution, all of us need to lean in and make sure that we give your work, we give the science program work, we give AAD's work, we give all scientists work, the best opportunity to be seen, to be visible, and to be influential. That's why this event is so important. And when I saw the program, and I saw that its almost singular purpose is to showcase the work to policymakers, to collaborators across the breadth of the policy-making ecosystem, I was singularly impressed and wanted to come along and talk to you. So for myself, I know this is going to be an important day, and I hope it is a very successful and informative day for you. I do want to take the opportunity to share with you Minister Plibersek's remarks and again her apologies, so let me read these to you. I'm very sorry I couldn't be with you all in person today. As you have seen, our government has been busy over its first 100 days getting to work on delivering our commitments. Sometimes your body can't always keep up, and unfortunately I am ill at home. First, let me acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands, the Ngunnawal people, and pay my respects to elders past and present. I'm delighted to speak with you about Antarctica and its importance to Australia's scientific, strategic and environmental objectives. Australia has a long history with the icy continent to our south, and the Australian Antarctic Division's long-held vision is to ensure Antarctica remains valued, protected and understood. As the Minister responsible for the Australian Antarctic Program, and with your help and expertise, I intend to continue this important legacy for future generations. As outlined in my recent State of the Environment report address to the National Press Club, I'm driven by three essential goals as Minister: to protect, to restore and to manage Australia's precious environment. Just as this is our agenda for Australia, it is also our mission in Antarctica, where we claim 42% of the continent as the Australian Antarctic Territory. Australia has a strong national interest in Antarctica, focused on leadership, excellence in science and environmental stewardship. Today's symposium will showcase why Antarctica is important to Australia. You will also hear how Antarctic science and public policy priorities, including climate change, marine conservation and environmental stewardship, are connected. Antarctica is a crucial element of our Earth's natural processes. Changes there and throughout the Southern Ocean will have a profound ecological and economic impact on Australia and the rest of the world. Yet, despite our ongoing presence on the continent since 1954, it remains largely unexplored. Science increases our understanding of the Antarctic environment and improves environmental management, and this science enables us to improve both policy and decision-making. So, why does Antarctic science matter? Well, the ice sheet melting in Antarctica impacts sea level rises. The faster that melt happens, the faster we feel the impacts. Changes in the Southern Ocean will impact weather patterns and extreme weather events. And studying species such as krill enable us to make scientifically informed fishery management decisions. The State of the Environment report tells us that the Antarctic environment is still in comparatively good condition, but that the pressures on the continent and surrounding ocean are increasing. We know that climate change is a key threat to the continent and makes a substantial impact on the sub-Antarctic and the Southern Ocean as it does globally. Pollution, tourism, commercial fishing, and an expanding human presence also affect the Antarctic region. The range and abundance of iconic species are changing, patterns in sea ice formation are increasingly unpredictable, and glaciers and ice sheets are melting. These changes are likely to become irreversible without policy interventions and technological advances. Following this symposium, I hope you'll continue to consider how Antarctic science may inform your own work, or how you can add to our world-leading store of scientific knowledge. Antarctic research also offers us an important avenue through which to demonstrate leadership within the Antarctic Treaty System. Today, Australia remains among the most influential parties to the Antarctic Treaty and is committed to its strength, its effectiveness, and its principles of peace, science, and environmental protection. One of my immediate priorities is the adoption of a representative system of marine protected areas, including an Australian-led proposal for the East Antarctic Marine Protected Area. Here, we are working in cooperation with our partners in the EU, the US, and the UK to achieve this. An East Antarctic Marine Protected Area would comprise approximately 1 million square kilometres in the ocean around East Antarctica. Crucially, our proposal has been confirmed by the Scientific Committee of the Convention for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources. So thank you once more for attending today. Australia's position as a world leader depends so much on science and exploration that you all do, and I want you to know that under our government you have a minister that backs you in. And I will conclude by saying to you that you also have a department that will back you in. Thank you very much.